Okay, so we've got a level 2 damage here. You'll see how it's kind of loose there in the middle, but then it's firm around the outside. So what we got to do is go over the whole thing with the bonding material. Now here what I do is I've got a 1/8 inch drill bit and I'm drilling out each crack. So as it shoots up, you want to cut that off by drilling a hole through the fiberglass each crack that we do. So you see we had 3 cracks there. Next, what we're doing is I took an 80 grit sandpaper, I put it on my orbital sander, hooked it up to the vacuum. That's going to cut down on your dust a lot. Now what I'm doing is scuffing around the area and inside the area that I'll be patching. This helps the bonding material adhere to the surface. So you want to be sure to kind of go outside the area a couple inches, you know, and really give yourself some room to work there. Next, you just clean off the area and get ready for the next step. Here we're applying the mesh tape. You want to have a fair amount of overlap. You see how I've got about a 1/4 inch there on the left, a lot more on the right. Then I want to cut that off anywhere that's way outside of that boundary. The closer, you know, you got to have some overlap, but the better you do this and keep it close, the less likely you're going to see that mesh when you're feathering it out. Here we have the short strand fiberglass material with the hardener on top. The hardener's blue here, it might be red, kind of comes in both colors. As you're going to do this, you want to stir it up, kind of spread that blue around a little bit, and you really just want to achieve one consistent color. So stir it around, spread it out, fold it over. That's going to get you where you need to do it. Now once this is all mixed up, you're going to spread it on just like drywall mud. Now once it's all mixed up, you've got about 2 minutes to play with this. You'll start to notice it firm up. As it starts to firm up, continue playing with it for a little while. That's going to help you kind of get a smoother finish. It'll sag less as you spread it out. Don't go too long because that can actually make it hard. It'll clump up on you, so be careful with that. Now as you spread this on there, you're going to want a little bit of a more girth in the middle and then feather out the edges. I would say anywhere from a 1/16 to a 1/4 inch thick, depending on what you got behind there and how much support you have. Once it starts to firm up and you're happy with how you spread it on, then I go back and I clean off my putty spreader, and then I clean around the area with using acetone and a paper towel. This will help you feather out those edges too. Also, as this starts to set up, you've got to wait about 25 minutes. It's going to heat up and cool off, and it'll still be a little tacky after it's dry, but you can go ahead and sand it. This is going to take about 25 minutes, during which time we'll mix our color and do other things. So once you're happy with this, just stop messing with it and let it set up. So I add a little bit more gold white to lighten that up. Just take your time, blow dry it in between swatches for about 15, probably about 20 seconds. It will darken a little as you dry it. So as you're checking these out, this one looks like it stands out. It actually hit right on. The light will be funny with you, but once you spray it on, it won't be like that. So here I got where I wanted to be, and I'm ready to move on to the next step. Here we're going to be sanding our short strand fiberglass material. I use an 80 grit sandpaper on the orbital sander, which we provide the sandpaper for, not the orbital sander. I hook that up to my vacuum. That's going to cut down on the dust a lot. Always wear your respirator whenever you are sanding. That's extremely important. You don't need to breathe this stuff. So as I'm sanding, I just go around the edges and feather those out first, and then I go over the middle. Now this material is not designed to be perfectly smooth. There may be some little divots, pits in the fiberglass, so don't worry about that. We'll fix that on the next step. As you feather this out, you're going to want to feel if it doesn't feel real firm. If it's got too much give in the middle, you may have to apply a second coat and make that patch a little bit thicker. So be aware of that, and then always let it set up and cool down before you sand it. Otherwise it'll just gunk up your sandpaper and it won't stick to the surface. You got to really let it do that. Now notice this thing is hard enough, so I'm good to go. Just vacuum up your excess dust, and then wipe it down. Really make sure it's clean before we go to the next step. Here we're going to apply our fine putty filler. Notice I don't have much product on there. This is really just to fill in the gaps and help feather out any divots or edges and do that. So the product you'll get will actually be gray. This is reddish. This was a different product we were trying. We don't like it as much as the product we give you. So in other videos you'll see us using the gray stuff. So all you're going to do is spread that on just like we did the green material. Kind of feather out the edges and then wipe down around just like we did to kind of minimize your sanding. This stuff will sand a lot easier than the short strand fiberglass material, so keep that in mind. We're going to use a finer sandpaper as well. So after you let it set up for about 15 minutes, you want to be sure it feels dry. It's not tacky or sticky or anything like that. This stuff should get dry. Then you're just going to take that 120 grit and sand around the edges, feather it out again. Now it doesn't matter as much if you get into the short strand fiberglass material underneath. Really this is meant to fill any divots and really just give you that smooth finish. So a lot of times you can feather out the green enough to where you don't feel it. But same principle, just sand around the outside, feather around the outside, and then go across the middle. Just keep in mind, if you can feel it, you'll be able to see it when you spray it, so be careful with that. Remember to always use your respirator when doing these projects. Anytime you're mixing the product, either the short strand fiberglass material or this fine finish putty, or the product, really anytime you're doing any of this, working with our products, we recommend you have a good respirator on, one that keeps out harmful gases and things like that. So once you get it feathered out, you'll be ready to go. Just clean it up real well, because the next part will be spraying, and you want all of that dust off of any area around it. So be sure to clean it up, and then you're ready to go. Here we're going to be mixing our product. So we disassemble our pre-valve sprayer, and when you add the product, you always want 4 parts of resin, 1 part catalyst, and 2 parts reducer. In this example, I have 1 ounce of resin, then I add 1/4 ounce of catalyst, and then 1/2 ounce of reducer. So you'll see me do that. The catalyst helps the resin set up, and the reducer helps the product dry. Once you have that mixed up, you'll want to stir it, get all the resin off the floor and off the walls, and then you'll be ready to go. Notice I do offer a couple other examples. Sometimes you might need a 1.5 ounce, sometimes you might need a 2 ounce as far as your resin's concerned. In this example, give you an idea, I had plenty. It was 1 ounce of resin, made me plenty of product to finish this job. Here we're going to be applying our coating. So first we wipe on the primer. It's a gold solution. You're really just trying to get the whole surface wet, then you want to dry it a little bit. You don't want it to look wet when you apply the coating. Next we're going to apply the coating. Notice my technique. I'm back about a foot to 18 inches, and I'm just trying to fog it on here initially. So when you're spraying it, you let off when you change direction. So it's like and just fog that on. You're not trying to cover the whole thing. Then you're going to want to blow dry it, probably initially 45 seconds. The further along you get, you may be blow drying it for 1 minute to 1.5 minutes. You really want that product to get a little set up and tacky. That way it'll reduce your chances of getting a drip. Then you go back over, just fog it on again, and then repeat this process. Some things to be aware of: if you get a piece of debris in it, you can pick that out with a box knife or something like that, then you're good to go. If you do get a drip, if it's a small drip and it's not just a huge run, then you can take a paper towel, fold that paper towel over, about 8 times, and then get it real wet with acetone, and then just dab that off of there. This is hard to do, to get a perfect finish after you have to do that, but sometimes you're able to do that, so just be careful with it. If you do have to wipe it all off, we should give you enough product to recoat this thing multiple times. Then just build it up. You want a glossy finish, not a foggy finish. That'll be rough. So once you get to a glossy finish, you're gonna clean around the edges, because there will be overspray in the vicinity of where you've sprayed. So just take some acetone and a paper towel and wipe that up. Otherwise, it'll have a rough finish. If you do happen to have a rough finish around there, maybe it's a little rough of a spray, take some 400 grit sandpaper and wet sand it, and that'll just lightly wet sand it with water. That'll clean it up.